Welcome, everybody, to the holidays. That's right. It's the holidays edition of Vinyl Power. Happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish friends out there. It's the 12 days of Christmas or Swatchmas, depending on which show you watch your mind. That's right. We are here to talk about our love of vinyl records and party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. It's the Christmas season. That's right. Hey, it's going to be real interesting today because we've got some fun stuff to talk about. So, with that, I'll introduce myself. I'm one of the hosts. I am the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and Christmas with the Chipmunks is amazing. That guy over there is Kurt Harris. He's the music man from North Carolina. That's right. And we are here to adjust your chi for the afternoon on the love of vinyl. Spinning the records, man. We spun the records today. I've got some good, I've got some bad. But as usual, we start off with the release calendar. So let's tell you what's coming out tomorrow. You'll see everybody getting their packages going, ooh, look what I got. Yeah.
Look what I got. Gotta love it.
Hans Zimmer and Benjamin releases the Blade Runner 2949 original.
Oh, sweet. I might have to have
now,
that.
how do you pronounce 7 G's in a silent Q? I don't know.
You don't. You don't worry.
Exactly. It's whatever, dude. Sorry. Get a new last name.
You pretend to cough.
So right. Otis Redding, the definitive studio album collection, and I bet you that will be amazeballs. That one I might have to look into.
Yeah, that's probably really good.
Taylor Swift's Reputation. This one I'm interested in. I actually have a copy on FLAC. I might have to break it out now. The Beatles, the Christmas records.
I've never even heard of that. That is awesome. I would really like to hear that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. The Deer Hunter, all is as all should be. What the? Y'all suck. Whatever. Okay.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. The Killers have like a quadruple release here with Sawdust, Day and Age, Direct Hits, and Sam's Town. Thank you very much, The Killers. It's going to be a Merry Christmas for Killers fans. Thelonious Monk, who the hell is that? Well, it's the complete prestige 10-inch LP collection for Thelonious Monk is getting released tomorrow, and I'll bet you that, too, is something to drool over.
Absolutely. Monk rules.
The Monkster. Yeah, these kids are Thelonious who? Thelonious Monk, boy, look it up. That's like Dave D, Sparky G, Creepy, and Doo-Doo. Whatever.
Thelonious Monk is one of those. If you ever want to know anything about jazz, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane, those are names you just need to know.
Chuck Mariarchi, you don't know that name? Ooh, I might have to school you a little bit.
Mariarchi?
Yeah,
no, I don't know that name.
Dude, I'm probably mispronouncing it. It feels so good.
Oh, Chuck Mangione.
That's the guy.
Yeah, of course I know that.
Yeah, Mangione. I since high school I can never pronounce that guy's name. They always laugh. I always call him Porn Trumpet Guy.
Yeah.
Because the first porn movie I ever saw had It Feels So Good in it, and I don't know what the name of that movie was. If anybody out there knows the name of that porno, don't tell me, because I really it's a search I want to end on my own. Anyhow, Crazy Heart original soundtrack is coming out tomorrow, as well as the Stranger Things music from the Netflix original series. So that's what's coming out on vinyl tomorrow. I'm going to break out the Beatles Christmas probably like right after this. Yeah, I know. Vinyl rules, but when you don't have the vinyl, you do what you do to listen to stuff, right?
Yes, you do.
Well, that's how it works. All right, I got one of them afternoons with a hair in your mouth. Dadgummit. Hey, Kurt, got a question for you, though, buddy. What the heck have you been spinning in the house this week?
Another great week of records. And, I always bring some kind of theme to the table. And this week, it was all about the Rush. It was all about one of my favorite my favorite Canadian band. And this could be, it actually started off with Moving Pictures on Saturday night. We had quite a little jam session with Moving Pictures, but I've already had Moving Pictures on here as my epic record, so we're skipping past that one, and we're going right to 1977, and this is Rush, Farewell to Kings.
Nice.
This is the first.
I don't have that one yet. I'm still looking for it.
This is the first Rush tour that I ever saw live, and hopefully you will find this one eventually. And it's a great record with Farewell to Kings and one of my favorite Rush songs on side one, Xanadu, and then Closer to the Heart, Cinderella Man, Madrigal, and part one, 10 minutes long, of Cygnus X1. So the
Yeah,
10-minute
it's
beginning
wonderful.
of Cygnus X1, The Voyage. This actually did pretty well at the charts. It reached number 33 in the US and number 22 in the UK. So it charted and it sold decently well. And it's really hard for me to say because I'm such a fan of pretty much the first Rush album, which of course is very different with James Rutsey on drums. Um, a second Rush album, the first one with Neil Peart, who of course went on to write all the lyrics. Um, moving forward from a Fly By Night, Caress of Steel, and I won't go any further because the next one will be my epic record tonight. But um, anyways, it was a great way to start listening to Rush, which what could be my favorite Rush album, and if it's not my favorite, it's because this one is heavily on its heels, and that would be the one that followed it, 1978's Hemispheres. Um, One of the cool things about Hemispheres is it continues. It has part two of Cygnus X1, and on here it takes up one whole side. It's 18 minutes. So
It's
between the
almost
two
Inagata
pieces,
Davida.
it is at a get basically. Between the two pieces, you have 28 minutes of one song, and it is spectacular. One of the really interesting things I would say about this record would be the fact that when Rush was in the studio, this record was so hard for them to record. They had basically written music that was over their heads, over their own heads. It was so technically complicated that when it came time to lay down the music in one sitting, they couldn't do it. They actually kept failing, and when they finally got it done, the first thing they said was, "We'll never do that again." And the second thing they said was, "We need a 6-week vacation." And they
Yeah.
actually were so worn out from recording this album, they took a 6-week vacation afterwards. And yeah, like I say, the second part,
Yeah,
which
today's
is
artists have no idea what it's like to try and sit down and create something like that in one take.
in one take. That's
There is
exactly
no
right.
track laying. There is no digital overlay. There is no autocorrect. There is no voiceover. There's none of that. Okay. It is one take, everybody in the room at the same time doing it, getting it done.
And they
And
couldn't get it done. And Rush, I mean, these guys are highly, highly
and that's
talented.
not cheap. Yeah, that's not cheap either. I
It's
mean,
not cheap
nobody
either.
wants to
It
spend
costs a
that.
lot of money to sit in that studio day after day and not get takes worthy of putting onto the record itself. So, like I say, they had said after this that they were going to tone it down a bit, and they did. Following that record, you get to one that was eminently, although that record it charted. It was 41 in the US and 14 in Canada. It wasn't a great, that's not a huge charting record, but here you get Permanent Waves.
That's the last
And
one I picked up in my collection of Rush.
in Permanent Waves, it's a more cohesive record in terms of song structure because, like I say, they didn't want to go overboard on the technical ecstasy of it all as they had with Hemispheres. I personally love that part of Hemispheres, but you have 1980, and this album reached number 4 in the U.S. This is the album that preceded their biggest record ever, of course, Moving Pictures, but it did reach number 4 in the US, number 3 in both Canada and the UK. And like I say, not as complicated technically, but Spirit of the Radio, everybody knows what a great song that was on the radio all the time. Free Will on the radio, probably the second most technically difficult song on the record was Jacob's Ladder. And then on side 2, they do go off the rails a little bit with Entre Nous, Different Strings, and then Natural Science, which is a sweet and quite an amazing song in my opinion. So
Hey,
in
lady,
many
I can see up your skirt.
yes, in many ways, I think for many people, this is probably for many people, it's either their favorite Rush album or second favorite Rush album. It's certainly right there for me. Like I say, the only
Well, it's no
um,
Tom Sawyer, but it's definitely
right, it preceded Tom Sawyer, but it certainly led the way by getting to #4 on the charts. So people were prepared when Moving Pictures came out and basically exploded on the scene as it did. They had been prepared by this record. I can't tell you where exactly it places. Like I say, for me, I love the first Rush album. It's more like a Led Zeppelin album with John Rutsey on drums. Um, and like I say, that the preceding records when Neil Peart was brought in because John Rutsey had diabetes and was not able to tour. And 3 weeks before their tour started, they had to find a replacement drummer, and they found Neil Peart. You talk about
imagine.
fate. Talk about a guy that more than likely for his time period is going to be known as the top drummer in popular music. So quite a and plus he wrote all the lyrics. But yeah, it's hard for me to say what my favorite is, but just lump this one in there with my favorites. What a great record. And then I went on to, like I say, I'm skipping over because I've already spoken about it here before, but my last favorite Rush record, and I was at this tour as well, and this is Signals, 1982. This was the record that followed Moving Pictures, of course. I love this record. I adore this record. I don't
200
adore.
gram. Holy crap.
Oh
That
yeah,
thing must weigh like a pound and a half.
these and that's one thing I wanted to point out. And I probably pointed out when I did feature the Moving Pictures. These are all, every one of these are the 2015. I just happen to keep the little bag on this one, but it's been played multiple times. These are the 2015 remasters. They did 12 months of Rush where they released a Rush album every month. And these are the ones that were pressed with that DMM audiophile pressing, 200 gram. They are without a doubt the best sounding records I've ever heard in my life. Any records by any band, I've never heard anything better than these. Top notch records. And this record was much more keyboard based. You have a lot less of Alex Lifeson's, fantastic guitar work because there wasn't room for it because Geddy Lee had introduced so much keyboards. Now, that kind of fit in with the 1982 time period when we're getting into the new wave and all. Well, I think it works on this album. I don't think it works as well. The following album was Grace Under Pressure, and you have Power Windows, and the albums going forward. I don't dislike those albums. I don't think they're nearly as good as this. I think this was Rush's last great record was Signals. So for me, from the Rush album, it's 9 records in a row, going from the very first album, Rush, to Signals, and I love every every single one for their differences, for the things that they have in common, everything about them. I think it's one of the greatest, long record runs that any band ever had. But after this one, I own some of the records, but I don't love them. I can listen, but I don't love them. So, anyways, I finished up my week. Was one more record, but I finished up my week with Rush, with listening to Signals multiple times. So 1982 reached number 10 in the US. There's no song on this album that goes over 6 minutes and about 50 seconds. So that, again, that's very different for Rush with all their long, drawn out, technically difficult songs. So
Right.
that's what I was listening to this week, oh master of the holidays. And I have to ask you, Jeff,
That's me.
you're amassing quite a collection of holiday records, and I
I
have to
am.
ask
I have
you,
quite a bit.
what were you listening to during this week?
Well, this particular week, I was listening to a lot of good stuff and some really bad stuff, but it's all in good fun. Started out with a little bit of lips ink, baby, in mouth to mouth. Now, one might ask, Why, Reverend? Why in the world would you listen to a Lips Inc. album at all? That's disco, is it not? However, the 7-minute and 50-second version of Funky Town,
Funky Town,
Funky Town, and the 8-minute and 20-second version of All Night Dancing is worth it. There's literally 4 songs on this, and they are exquisitely done. I mean, to the point that I almost think that disco didn't die in 1979. This was the debut album by the American disco act Lips Inc. with Cynthia Johnson on lead vocals. The album released in 1979 on Casablanca Records, and it went double platinum, selling 1980 chart-topping hit Funky Town, which hit #1 in 28 different countries around the world. The album was arranged and produced and mostly written by Steven Greenberg, who was also a session musician on the album. Check that out.
Check it out.
Dude, I mean, it's seriously, it really is. Not only are they great music pieces, but this particular album sounds great. It's one of those ones that I didn't have to scrubby to make it sound decent again. Now, next up, yeah. I had to get out of the crap and into something cool. That's right. The Way It Is. Bruce Hornsby and the Rain.
That's just the way it is.
That is exactly it. Now, that's not why I bought this record, although that is a fantastic song. Bruce Hornsby and the Range's debut album, released in 1986, led by its title track. The album went to achieve multi-platinum status and helped the group to win the Grammy Award for Best New Artist. My favorite on the album was actually Mandolin Rain, and Every Little Kiss was featured on it. I'm sorry, Every Little Kiss was also a #1 hit. Huey Lewis is featured on harmonica and vocals on Down the Road Tonight. Lewis also co-produced the song along with the tracks The Long Race. Bruce Hornsby, I don't know if anybody knows it past this particular album, but he used to tour with the Dead from 88 to late 91, and he played guitar for them, and they say that a lot of his later records after this one were directly influenced by touring with the Dead. And I love that kind of thing, because the Grateful Dead is you almost have to see them live or listen to a live record to even appreciate the Grateful Dead. Their studio albums aren't all that great. It's a shame, but it's the truth.
They were a great live jam band. I completely agree.
Higher than a kite and playing live. That's the way you wanted to see Jerry Garcia. I mean, at least in my book. So Bruce Hornsby and the Range, that cleaned up a little bit of the yuck. And then we moved right along down the line. Now, the wife comes back today and she goes, "Honey, I got you a present." I'm like, "Well, it's not Christmas yet. Do I want to open them?" She goes, Yeah, you want to open them because we're going to listen to them. So the first one up was Def Leppard. On Through the Night. Now,
nice
this
record.
Yes, absolutely. The debut studio album of the English rock band Def Leppard, released on March 14th, 1980. The album was produced by Tom Allom, and it charted #15 on the UK chart and #51 on the Billboard 200. The album features the re-recorded version of Rocks Off and Overture, tracks from the band's original independently released EP, the Def Leppard EP, which is the one that's got like the Cheetos cat on it. You can find them out there. There's like a white cover with a Cheetos cat on it. It's an awful cover, but that's the original Def Leppard EP before this one. Other tracks are re-recorded version of earlier demos, some of which appeared in the First Strike and War Child bootlegs. The album was certified gold by the RIAA on 18 November 1983 and platinum on 9 May 1989. I mean, does it get any better than that? There's a couple of cuts on the first side that are they're live or in front of an audience of some sort. They might not be, like on tour or something. It was very strange album, to be honest with you, but it's a really good listen. Now, the wife got this stupid thing at something called Half Price Books. If you'll notice, inside of the wrapper, they put the sticker right on the friggin' cover, man.
Oh,
right on the cover. And it's just like, ah, you dick. Like, I can't get that off. Like, that's going to be there forever. I won't even attempt to get that off. It's not worth it.
That's one of my two favorite Def Leppard records. My two favorites are their first one, that one, and High and Dry. I think those are both great records. I know most people would say Pyromania and Hysteria later, but I happen to love the first two.
Yeah, well, then you know, we got through this one. It was friggin' fantastic. And then very epically, she pulls out to almost complete my Van Halen collection with 1984.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Oh, yeah. Can go ahead, jump. Yeah, 1984 is the album, the sixth studio album by the American hard rock band Van Halen, released January 9, 1984. It was the last Van Halen album to feature David Lee Roth. That's right. Until, of course, 2012's A Different Kind of Truth, which is crap. Sorry, but it is. Those reunion friggin' records never, anyhow. The final full-length album with all four original members. Roth left the band in 1985 due to increasing creative differences. The album and their debut are Van Halen's best-selling albums. Each have sold more than 10 million copies. Good Lord. Jump, Panama, Hot for Teacher, I'll Wait, all #1 hits off of this album. So I caress it and I get it out of the bag, and you know, I get my microfiber out and I dust her off real good, and I make sure she's clean, and I take out my stylus brush and I brush off my stylus, and I get everything going, and I turn it on and I put it on, and it won't even play 1984.
Oh,
it's got a whoop-de-doop in it so bad, like a ski jump, and it just keeps bouncing, and I'm like, son of a bitch! So I'm like, okay, if I can't listen to 1984, maybe I can listen to Jump. So I no. Jump just flings it back to 1984 that doesn't play and just keeps jumping. Go ahead and jump. Yeah, that some bitch is jumping back to 1984. So I skip it forward to Panama. I'm like, okay, maybe I can, no, there's a wobble in this record that is so freaking bad. It's one of those times that, and she spent, $10 on it, so it's too much for it. We're taking it back. After the show's over, we're literally eating dinner, getting in the car, and taking this piece of crap back. And I'm going to shame them for it. I'm going to shame them for it too. I mean, this should have never been on the shelf for sale. They should have never bought it.
They may never have checked it there, unlike the usual place you go where they probably check most all their records before they put them out.
And the wife just happened to be up at another store, and she saw that they had records in there, and she picked out 2 epic albums for $20. But one was good, the other one was shit. She didn't know that, and she wasn't going to take the time to put it on a record player in the store.
Of course,
she trusts that whoever's selling them for $10 figures that they'll play at least. Yeah, well,
hopefully they'll make it right when you.
This friggin' looked like Eddie the Eagle on my damn Stanton, and I was about, oh, dude, I'm gonna bust my stylus if I let it keep going like that. I mean, it literally was launching the stylus off of the table and letting.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Like, that's rough. That's rough.
I left a Metallica record in the store because
a little bit of vinyl Winter Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Coming up next, the 1984 Olympics, starring Van Halen. Well, hey, there's got to be a couple of people, if not, maybe even 3 out there hanging out in the live chat room tonight. Let's see who is out there. There is a Mr. Ken. Achoo. Yes, sir.
Achoo. Good
Rock
to see you,
Mr.
Ken.
All night, party every day. Mr. Rod Dupree, he's got his tools. Thanks for kicking old Bones to the corner last night when it needed to go. I give y'all the tool, man. I figure y'all use it.
He handled it well.
Absolutely. I'm sure Lance is going to show up, and Christopher's out there watching. He just doesn't have a YouTube login. So we'll say, hello, Christopher. Potatoes are definitely a vegetable.
And hopefully Wid34 is out there watching as well. And he's been watching on his tablet device. And for some reason, he's having trouble getting the
chat
to load. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be an issue with the tablet thing. I don't really know. I know it works on a mobile phone and it works on a computer, but try uninstalling and reinstalling your YouTube app or the updates to it, because sometimes that does work. But yeah, I see him post on nearly every show, and we love the fact that you're out there watching live.
Absolutely.
Show, sure. I got to ask you. I guess this becomes the time. Hey, what'd you bring for your epic record this week?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious where I went, but maybe not why I went. Well, Rush 2112.
2112.
So we step back before Farewell to Kings. And so what had happened? I make this as concise as possible. The first Rush album comes out. Nobody knows who they are, of course. They're huge fans of Led Zeppelin and The Who, and that's the direction they went on that first record. But it had one killer song, Working Man. Well, that song got picked up by a radio station in Cleveland, Ohio, of all places. And I guess the DJ there really liked it and started pushing it. And the next thing you know, Rush became a thing. Well, like I had said, before they started their tour, they had switched off from John Rutsey to Neil Peart. And Rush went in a different direction. They became a much more progressive band with songs that revolved around stories and sweets and fantasy and science fiction. Wow, what is all this nerdiness, right? Well, the second album, Fly By Night, it did okay, but it really did okay still on the strength of Working Man. The third album comes out, Caress of Steel. Oh, it flops. I happen to love Caress of Steel, but it flops. It flops so bad that basically the members of Rush are living off $125 a week.
So it sucks, man. That's
So
horrible. Go play a gig, man.
They couldn't do anything. Nobody was showing up at their gigs. The gigs went bad. They were playing music from Caress of Steel. They couldn't believe how the audience wasn't taking it well. Audiences were shrinking. Record company was like, you're on the verge of disappearing back into the Canadian wilderness. And they told them, this fourth, we're going to let you put out a fourth record. We're going to put you in the studio, but it has to be a record that is the radio's going to love. You're still on the strength of one song, Working Man, from your first record. Your next two records killed it. You have nothing left. So they went in the studio. Alex Lifeson really believed this was the end of the band. They were going to put out a record, and they were done. This was it. Go to the steel mill. Go cut some trees down in Canada. Whatever. Go make some maple syrup.
Get a real job.
Yeah. Go back to the pack bacon farm. So, you know what they decided? They said, if we're going down in flames. We're not going to do with the record company. So they refused, hid the tapes, whatever it took to not let the record company hear the tapes before it was actually pressed onto a record. Side one is one song. It's a suite, of course. Basically, the Temples of Syrinx. You've got 2112, Overture, Discovery. I mean, it's just the Oracle, the Dream. It's a story. And when you look at this, what became Rush's signature, this is man against collectivism, which is something I certainly identify with. So this album was about the singular man facing a new technological society, which was embracing collectivism and discarding the individual. And that's what, and it was, of course, written by Neil Peart. So they thought they were just going to put this out and go down in flames. But you know what? They put it out and it hit. This record hit. It surprised everybody. And that's why
it's a long fly ball.
Yeah, exactly. This is that. What was it? The LA Dodgers back in I can't remember what year that was, when Kirk Gibson comes off the bench and he's like hobbling, but he hits that home run to basically win the World Series for the Dodgers that year.
Does everything but give him the middle finger as he's running around the base.
This is basically that record for Rush, and that's why it made my epic record this week. It only reached number 61 in the U.S., number 5 in Canada, but that number 61 and number 5 was enough to keep the band going, and enough for the record company to go, we don't like it, we don't understand it, but hey, it's sold, it made some money, so yeah, go ahead and put out another record. So if it wasn't for this record, Rush would probably be, for some people, they may be a footnote, because yes, for a lot of people, they probably can't get into the overly progressive and fantasy and science fiction lyrics and all that, and I totally get that. They're not a pop band by any means, but for me, this record saves the band. It's 1976. It's on Anthem Records. It's been reissued many, many times. Of course, like I said, this is all the records that I've shown here, plus a few that I still have in the collection, are on that 200-gram vinyl on that DMM pressing process, and they're the best records I've ever heard. This was actually reissued again for the millionth time in 2016. They reissued a special edition. The album was the same as 2015, but there was a second album that was done by Rush fans, and it includes and it's this album just redone by fans.
Yeah, you know, that's funny about Rush. Much like the Beatles tribute bands and Kiss tribute bands, there are a crap ton of Rush tribute bands out there still.
But listen to who cut the songs. One band was Alice in Chains.
Nice.
Another was Dave Grohl from, of course, Nirvana and the Foo Fighters.
Right.
The other was, well, my favorite artist, Steven Wilson.
Nice.
So on that record, you have songs by others, but just a few notable people: Dave Grohl, Steven Wilson, and Alice in Chains. And it is the album again. It is 2112, just done by people that happen to love the album.
That's fantastic.
The 2016 reissue, which you can probably find Amazon or wherever if you're interested in it, for people that are big fans of this record and wouldn't mind not only listening to this fantastic pressing itself, the DMM pressing, which came out in 2015, but also includes a second record with the entire album replayed by people that just love the album, other artists. So very cool little footnote on this record. And like I said, man against collectivism. The reason, and how can you not show this epic picture on the back?
Who do you think he is? Hugh Hefner?
Believe me, they've gotten so much crap over this picture throughout the years. And if I zoom in,
what is that, a camel toe? Does that dude have a male camel toe? What the hell is that?
Yeah, if I zoom in just a little more,
giant moose knuckle.
You have to wonder why they selected this picture for the back of the record. They've got some serious crap.
I've never seen a male moose knuckle before.
They've got serious crap for this over the years. But anyways, the record that saved Rush, my epic record for the week. It was a week of Rush. I greatly enjoyed it. And now I turn to you, Ayatollah of holiday rock and roller, the man that keeps Santa Claus in our thoughts and Christmas in our hearts.
That's right.
What is your epic record for this week?
Oh, well, nobody doesn't like the Chipmunks. Oh, yeah, that's right. Alvin, Theodore, Simon, Dave. Dave's one of my favorite characters out of it. Again, I like my Christmas albums to take me places, and this takes me right back to being 10 years old, sitting in the living room while Mom played this on the console. You know, it had an 8-track, it had a reel-to-reel, it had a record player, it had giant speakers, and it was like a piece of furniture. I love that thing. 1962, 63 was reissued, and 2008 they did another re-release on it as well. This is 12 tracks. Of course, here comes Santa Claus up on the rooftop, up on the housetop. Silver bells, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, jingle bells over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house. Sweet. Oh, that might be copyrighted. Santa Claus is coming to town. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Frosty the Snowman and White Christmas. Yeah, I mean, the Chipmunk song, of course, has to be on there. Chipmunks roasting on a open fire. And we wish you a Merry Christmas. But just the fun of Alvin and the Chipmunks is just... who doesn't want to listen to this record? It comes on the radio. You turn it up, just like the Peanuts. You know, where is it? Turn that up. I want to hear that. So
that is one of the all-time classic Christmas records, the Chipmunks record. I mean, it's one of the all-time classics, both for youngsters and for adults.
It's one of those times, you know, released Liberty Records. There isn't a whole lot. There was a part 2 to it, a volume 2, Both albums have been combined and reissued several times since their original release. The song's most well known in the Chipmunk canon, and the current version is a 2012 re-release of the Chipmunks Christmas. Holy Jesus. And that's really gonna actually wrap it up for this edition of
Final Power.
Final Power. Now it's waiting for the sad going away music to kick in. We have 19 minutes and 26 seconds of that, so I don't think we need to talk all the way through this particular piece. At Vinyl Power Podcast on Facebook. Just type that right in there in the search bar, and boom, you'll go right to our page, and you can click like. Click the subscribe button, the bell if you like what we do here. Share it with your friends. Mr. Kurt, thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate you coming and sharing your love with it. Next week is the week before Christmas, so who knows what I'll bring in the house. And then the week after that, I believe we have a special guest coming in, so that will be super, super cool.
Yes, it will.
I can't wait. I don't want to announce it until it's set in stone, but boy, that's going to be fun. 2018 is going to be another great year of more Vinyl Power. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see y'all next week.